Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at arrays, and I kind of pre-written everything that we're basically going to be talking about in this video. This way we can spend some time on talking about the intricacies of arrays and passing them into functions and stuff like that. I have 3 array declarations here. These are 3 common ways to declare arrays. We can put in a size here. Instead of size here, I could put like 5, for example. These are both the same thing, really. So you can declare an array by putting the size in here, and then equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This would initialize each element, one after the other, all the way up to the size. This is in B. I did not specify the size here, but here at runtime, it figures out the size based on how many I initialized. So this would be basically the same thing as 5 or size here. In C, this is initializing 2 elements but with a capacity of 5. So basically what's going on behind the scenes is this. If you don't initialize an int array when you provided the size, everything becomes 0. All of the elements are 0. Now I wrote 2 functions. First, we're going to print the size of the arrays like this with this function I wrote, and you just pass the array like this. And then I'm going to print the arrays with this function. This is our function, getSize. It returns an int, and you pass this array by reference because arrays are only passed by reference. And I'm basically returning the size of A and the size of the entire array divided by the first element. That should give me the size of the array. And I cast it to int because the size of returns the reason I cast it to type int because the size of operator, it returns size underscore t. It returns this. Now this doesn't work, and we're going to run the program and we're going to see why. Okay, so here are the size of the arrays. A is getSize 1 byte, B is 1 byte, C is 1 byte. So basically how you get the size of an array is by doing this. But the reason it doesn't work is because we're really going to talk about passing arrays into functions and how they have different behaviors than what you might think. The size of these arrays, A, B, and C, are all 5 times 4. Okay, let's look at size of. So size of is a keyword. It returns a size in bytes of the type or object. So you put the type here or the object. Since it's a keyword, technically, you do not even need a space there. You just put this type here without the angle brackets, or the object. In this case, I was using an array. Each int, let's say, so we're using int. Each int has 4 bytes. So an array of 10 elements, so for example, int 10, this would be 10 times 4, which is 40 bytes. All of the arrays in our example have 5 elements, so that should be half. So they should return 20 bytes, but I'm getting 1 for each. Let's talk about why this doesn't work. So when you pass an array into a function, inside the function, the array gets treated like a pointer. And we haven't covered pointers yet, but basically a pointer doesn't know anything about the size of the array. So this cannot work. All it knows is the size of itself. As you can see, when I hover over A here, it's star A. That's type of pointer. It's not this. So when I hover over here, this is type of array. An array is a pointer, yes. When you use it in a function, it gets converted into a pointer, really. It gets used as a pointer. And then this type of thing does not work. So if we insert this here, this is going to tell us how many elements A contains. Elements. We'll change that here. So A is going to return how many elements it is. And A is 5 elements. We know that because we initialized A to have 5 elements, because size is 5. The reason we do it this way is because you might not know the size of the array. This is an array declaration. I don't know the size of this array, But what I will do is change these over, and we'll find out how many elements D has. And if we actually count these, it'll be 16. So if we just print the size of A, which is an array, this is an array. We're not dereferencing that array. This is the size of the array. When we run it, we get A is 20 bytes. So passing A by itself without dereferencing gets the total size of the array. What we do is divide that value, that integer, by the size of the first element. And why this works is because 20 divided by the size of element 1, or any element, this could be any element, right? It's arbitrary. So I went ahead and changed the code here. These will all print the size of the array in bytes. And then we print the arrays by passing this expression as a parameter to size. And the reason this will work is because we no longer have the issue where arrays inside of functions get treated as pointers. So I went ahead and changed the function so it just prints the first element and then followed by the comma. So we don't get an extra comma at the end. It just prints very nicely. And as you can see, this is what happened. 64 divided by 16 is 4, which is how many bytes an int holds. And we can do the same thing. 64 divided by 4 is how many elements there are, 16. Alright, so here are 2D arrays. This is the number of rows. So there's 3 of them. And then each column, there's 2. So this is kind of the syntax. So the first part of the array is how many rows, top down, and columns is left to right. 3D array is really pain to type. Here's the X, the Y, the Z. So here's the rows, right here. Here's the columns. The columns is 3 of them. There's 3 columns because there's 1, 2, 3. And then in those columns, how many elements? There's 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Real pain to write, but that's how it is. Now there's hundreds of ways to initialize arrays. I won't go over all of them, but this is ones that I've seen that I think are a little bit more common, possibly. Okay, I created a class definition inside the CPP. Not good practice, but just for this example, I want it right here so you can see. So this is a class called A. It has a private member called B of type int, and I initialize that to 0. And I have a constructor for A, and that sets B equals 10, and then I have a method that returns B, okay? So what I'm doing in the main is I'm creating an array of type A, this class, an array of this class. I want 3 elements, and over here I'm printing the elements and getting B from them. So either 0 or 10, and basically it's going to be 10. We'll just check it out. So array 0 is 10, the value of B, and 1 and 2. So this actually calls the constructor on all of these elements.